to support a customer order for a 10 gigabit Ethernet service over an OTN network, you need to provision an ODU service. You plan to support the service by using the 400xp transponder on the NCS 2000 platform, which also supports OTN services. To prepare for provisioning the service, a network operator has configured the client and trunk pluggable modules in the optical device. Then, the operator added the internal patch cords for the transponder in the chassis view on the Configuration tab, which is a prerequisite for provisioning. It is important to note that, when provisioning a service on an optical device with internal patch cords that support connectivity, the patch cords must be added on the Chassis View Configuration tab first, or provisioning will fail. Now, you are ready to provision the end-to-end ODU client service, which will transport the 10 gigabit Ethernet client through the optical architecture. To begin, you have navigated to the network topology map that includes the NCS 2000 device that you need to provision. On the Circuits VCs tab, click Create. The provisioning wizard opens. The first page populates with the carrier Ethernet service types available by default. In the Technology drop-down list, select Optical. The page updates to display the optical service types. Because you are provisioning an OTN service on an NCS 2000 series optical device, in the Service Type list, you need to select ODU. In the Select Profile drop-down list, accept the default selection, which is blank. Note that when provisioning tasks include common sets of configurations that users provision on a regular basis, they can define those parameters in profiles to automate and expedite complex service provisioning. Then, users can apply a profile based on the service that they need to provision. In this case, you are configuring specific settings, so you do not select a profile. To continue, click Next. The Customer section page opens. Because you are provisioning the ODU service for a specific customer, in the Customer Name drop-down list, select the customer name. In the Circuit Details section, type a name for the service and type additional information to describe its use. To select the Path Protection settings, click Next. In the Protection Settings section, you can select whether to have a secondary or backup path and define its failover behavior. In this case, the service is supporting non-priority traffic, so you do not need to add a protection path. To indicate the device endpoints, click Next. The Endpoint section page opens, and the A endpoint row is selected. To select the A endpoint device, on the map, click the device icon with the port that you need to configure. The system applies the A icon to the device icon, and, in the A endpoint row, the device name populates the device name field. To select the A endpoint device port to use, in the A endpoint row, open the Termination Point drop-down list. To identify the port that you need, review the Display Name field, which has a more meaningful naming convention than the port name. Port names are generated based on the specific protocol that EPN Manager uses to manage the optical device. When you see the applicable port, select it in the list. And then, click Save. To select the Z endpoint device port in the list, click the Z option button. On the map, click the Z endpoint device icon. With the device name indicated, you then select and save the appropriate port. You have several options to take as your next step, including calculating the path that the system will provision between the devices before you deploy it on the network, or deploying the CLI commands immediately. For troubleshooting purposes, experienced engineers can review the associated CLI commands by using the preview function. When you calculate the path, which is a feature available only for ODU services, the system simulates the control plane to provide a visual representation of the working path that it will provision. When reviewing the working path, do not click any device icons on the map. If you do, the system will change the endpoint device that is active in the list to the device icon that you click. In this case, the system will provision intermediate hops through other devices to complete the path. You are ready to provision the ODU service. To continue, click Create Now. When deployment is complete, the page updates to display the CLI code and indicate the deployment results. You can review the deployment results for each device included on the working path. To review the status of the end-to-end service, click Close. To close the provisioning wizard, click Close. The system lists the service in the Circuits VCs list. The provisioning process can take several minutes to complete, sometimes longer in more complex provisioning scenarios. During this process, the system reports the service provisioning status, including missing or not discovered, and then partially discovered. The system indicates that the end-to-end service is provisioned and running with a green arrow. You can use several methods to validate and evaluate the service. In the list, you can click the option button beside the service to see an overlay on the map, indicating the path that the system provisioned. You also have the option to open the service's 360 view, which provides the service's status, statistics, any current alarms, and other details. And you can review the service's multi-layer trace diagram. The diagram provides a detailed view of the optical technology layers that are supporting the service's path. The diagram also is helpful when evaluating issues or alarms that the system is reporting related to the service. You have provisioned an ODU service successfully.